Winter pressed hard against the outskirts of Anchorage that night, carving silence into the snow until even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Noah Carter, a 40-year-old former Navy SEAL, still learning how to quiet the battles inside his mind, stopped cold on his porch. A thin line of red cut across the untouched whiteness, leading straight to a trembling bundle of black fur collapsed at his steps. The storm roared, yet all Noah heard was the steady drum of instinct, the same pulse that had carried him through nights far darker than this one. He thought he was lifting an abandoned pup out of the freezing wind. He had no way of knowing he was cradling a creature born of the wild itself, a life that would one day stand between him and the shadows he fought alone. What began as an act of mercy would grow into a bond strong enough to mend wounds no doctor could see. Before we continue this journey of healing, courage, and the unexpected family forged between man, dog, and wolf, please share this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Wild Heart Stories. Your support helps keep these stories alive and brings hope to others searching for their own path back to the light. The blood trail on Anchorage snow, winter pressed hard against the outskirts of Anchorage, Alaska, turning every breath into pale mist. Noah Carter paused by the frosted window, listening to the storm grind against the wooden cabin walls. At 40, the former Navy SEAL still carried the frame of a man trained to endure anything. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a rugged jaw usually hidden beneath a few days of dark stubble. A thin scar cut across his left eyebrow, a reminder of a night raid gone wrong years ago. His hair, once jet black, had begun to thread with gray, and his deep brown eyes always seemed to scan for danger even in the quietest moments. Since leaving the service, he had lived alone, speaking little, trusting less. Too many friends lost, too many memories that clawed awake the moment he closed his eyes. The only creature who understood the weight inside him was Blaze. Blaze, a 5-year-old German shepherd with a muscular build and a disciplined gait, lay stretched near the fireplace, ears twitching at each gust of wind. His thick black and tan coat gleamed in the firelight, and the harness across his chest bore the stark white letters, "Service Dog, Do Not Pet." Blaze had been trained to sense Noah's panic spikes, the tremors in his breath, the silent storms that came without warning. Loyal, alert, and calm, Blaze had saved Noah from himself more times than Noah liked to admit. Tonight, though, something stirred Blaze in a different way. A sudden sharp growl rumbled from the dog's chest. His ears shot forward, and he rose in a single fluid motion. Noah straightened, instincts flaring like sparks off steel. He followed Blaze's line of sight to the front door, where the storm beat like frantic fists. "What is it, boy?" Noah asked, though part of him was already bracing for an answer he might not want. Blaze padded to the door, nose working furiously, then let out a soft, urgent bark. Not a warning. A summons. Noah's pulse tightened. Blaze rarely made mistakes. He pulled on his navy winter coat, a heavy garment lined with the faint smell of cedar and campfire smoke. His red and black flannel shirt and worn jeans offered little insulation compared to military gear, but he had grown used to the cold, used to walking into conditions most people would avoid. His left knee, stiff from an old insertion injury, clicked softly as he moved. The door swung open. Wind knifed across his face, sharp and merciless. Snow swirled like powdered glass in the yellow glow of the porch light. Blaze stood in the threshold, nose pointed toward the dark tree line at the end of the road. That was when Noah saw it. A thin red line cutting across the pristine white snow. A trail, fresh, narrow, too narrow for a deer, too erratic for a fox. His heartbeat shifted into the old military rhythm. Fast, clear, ready. Blaze stayed behind him, but the dog's body was coiled, prepared to react. Noah crouched and pressed his gloved, fingertips lightly to the snow beside the red smear, still warm. Whatever was bleeding had passed only minutes ago. The trail led toward his porch. "What the hell?" Noah breathed, though the wind swallowed the words. He followed it, step by slow step, muscles tightening with every heartbeat. At the base of the wooden steps, beneath a thin drift of snow, something small moved, or tried to. A ball of black fur, no larger than his cupped hands, trembled violently. Ice crusted its coat. A faint, ragged breath escaped from a mouth too tiny, too fragile. Its eyes were barely open slits, glazed with pain. Blood seeped from a shallow wound along its side, staining the snow a deep crimson. Noah's chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with the cold. A pup? Out here? In this? He leaned closer, and recognition struck him like a blow. Not a puppy, a wolf pup, a newborn by the look of it, 2, maybe 3 weeks old, and from the way it lay half fused to the ice, it was dying. Lightning-fast memories surged up, battlefields, wounded comrades, desperate triage in impossible conditions. The smell of blood had never left Noah's mind, no matter how far he moved from war. He swallowed hard. Someone or something had abandoned this creature, or worse, something had attacked its mother. In the Alaskan winter, even the strongest animals could fall to the cold. Blaze released a soft whine behind him, a mixture of warning and concern. The shepherd stepped forward slightly, his breath forming ghostly clouds in the air. Noah hovered, his hand suspended inches above the pup. Touching it meant crossing a line, taking responsibility, opening the door to attachment he had spent years refusing. Another gust of wind slammed into him, colder than before. The pup shuddered, a tiny, pitiful movement that barely lifted its ribs. It did not have long. Noah's mind wrestled with itself. One voice said, "Walk away, that nature would take its course." The other, louder voice, the one shaped by years of rescuing teammates under fire, said, "Move now." Behind him, Blaze barked once, quiet, sharp, a command from the only creature Noah trusted without hesitation. He inhaled, breath shaking, then froze. His hand still hovered, his body still tense between action and fear. The storm roared around him, snow hissing across the porch, and the pup's faint breath grew weaker. The chapter ends with Noah motionless in the blizzard, uncertain whether he will reach the fragile creature before the cold claims it, while Blaze watches from behind, tense as a drawn bowstring. Wolf pup by the fire and the first secret, Noah did not remember making the decision. One moment he was hunched in the doorway with the storm clawing at his back. The next he was lifting the trembling bundle of black fur into his arms. The pup weighed almost nothing. Its body was frighteningly cold, the kind of cold that could steal life before dawn. Noah shut the door with his elbow, sealing out the blizzard's roar. Inside, the cabin glowed with firelight. Blaze paced a slow semicircle around Noah, hackles raised but not aggressive, as if instinct told him the creature in Noah's arms was both vulnerable and unfamiliar. Noah knelt beside the hearth and grabbed a stack of towels. He worked with careful precision, the same steadiness he once used to stop field bleeding under gunfire. He pressed the pup gently into the warm cloth, rubbing in slow, deliberate motions to restore circulation. The tiny creature gasped once, a thin, pitiful breath. Noah felt something twist in his chest. "It's okay," he murmured. "Stay with me." Blaze lowered himself a few feet away, front legs stretched, amber eyes locked on the newcomer. The dog's ears flicked with every squeal of wind but never left the pup. Noah recognized the stance, alert, protective, assessing. Blaze understood the difference between threat and helplessness better than most humans. Minutes passed, then an hour. The storm hammered the roof, but Noah barely heard it. The pup's body warmed little by little. When its eyes cracked open, 2 pale slivers full of confusion, Noah released a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. He needed a name, something small, simple, temporary. "Coda," he said softly. The pup did not react, only curled tighter into the towel. Noah bundled Coda closer to the heat and sat back on his heels. The fire painted his tired features in gold, softening the hard lines war had carved into him. He had come to Alaska to escape responsibility, not take on more. Yet, here he was, saving something he did not understand. Blaze shifted and let out a low huff, as if agreeing. By dawn, the storm eased. Pale sunlight seeped through the frosted windows. Noah barely slept, checking Coda's breathing every hour. When the pup whimpered in hunger, he warmed water, mixed it with powdered milk, and fed it drop by drop using a small syringe. He felt clumsy, rusty, but determined. By mid-morning, Noah decided the pup needed a professional exam. He scraped snow off his truck, loaded Blaze into the passenger seat, and placed Coda in a thick blanket-lined crate behind them. The drive to town was nearly 2 hours of white roads and drifting ice, but Noah kept glancing back in the mirror, checking that Coda's chest continued to rise and fall. Anchorage's small-town veterinary clinic sat tucked between a laundromat and a bakery. A painted wooden sign hung above the door, Rhodes Animal Care. Inside waited Dr. Emily Rhodes. Emily was in her mid-30s, with warm brown hair pulled into a loose braid that fell over a simple gray sweater. Her face had the kind of gentle symmetry that made people trust her instantly. Soft brown eyes, light freckles across her nose, and a voice that carried patience rather than authority. Though kind, she moved with brisk efficiency, the manner of someone who had seen enough emergencies to never waste time. When Noah walked in with the crate, snow melting off his coat, Emily's eyebrows lifted. "You brought in a little storm casualty?" she asked, kneeling beside the crate. "It was on my porch," Noah replied, barely breathing. Blaze sat at Noah's left side like a stone statue. Emily glanced at him. She knew a service dog's posture well, and offered a respectful nod before lifting the towel-wrapped pup. "Well now," she murmured, "you're a tough little thing." She examined Coda with gentle fingers, checking gums, temperature, limbs. The pup squeaked once, curling against her palm. "He's very young," she said. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Dehydrated, underfed, but there's hope if you keep him warm and fed." She paused, studying the sleek black fur and broad paws. "Could be shepherd mix, maybe a hint of husky from these toes. Hard to tell right now." Something in Noah loosened. Shepherd mix meant manageable, legal, simple, the kind of explanation a man wanted to believe. "I'll keep him," Noah said before thinking. Emily's gaze flicked up. "Are you sure? Newborns are a lot of work, even healthy ones." Noah looked down at his boots, remembering days in the SEALs when decisions had to be fast, final, unquestioned. "I'm sure." She wrote instructions on a folded sheet, feeding schedule, temperature checks, signs of hypothermia, and handed Noah a small bag of supplies. As he left, Emily added, "Bring him back in a week. I wanted to see how he's progressing." The following night shifted something inside the cabin. Noah set alarms every few hours to feed Coda. He kept a notebook on the coffee table, recording the pup's weight, energy level, and breathing patterns as if preparing a field report. Blaze hovered at a respectful distance at first, uncertain of the newcomer, but gradually the German shepherd inched closer, first guarding Coda from drafts, then lying between the pup and the fire, so it would not crawl too close to the flames. The sight struck Noah more deeply than he expected. The cabin had been silent for months. Now, soft breaths, tiny whimpers, and Blaze's steady presence filled the empty spaces. Nights were still hard, nightmares still came, but when Noah jolted awake, heart racing, Blaze pressed his warm head against Noah's ribs, while Coda slept curled like a soot-black ember beside the hearth. 2 weeks passed. Then the first secret revealed itself. One evening, Coda stumbled across the floor, except it wasn't a stumble. His legs were longer, stronger. His paws were too large for a puppy his age. His chest, once narrow, was expanding rapidly, and when he playfully nipped Noah's fingertip, the sound wasn't a squeak. It was a growl, low, instinctual, wild. Coda gazed up with eyes now shifting toward Amber, catching the firelight in a way that sent a slow ripple of unease through Noah's gut. Blaze stiffened beside him, sensing the change before Noah did. "Coda," Noah whispered, unsure whether to be worried or amazed. The pup tilted his head, and in that quiet, fire-lit moment, the first seed of doubt settled into Noah's mind. Small, subtle, but impossible to ignore. Something about Coda was not ordinary, yet Noah could not imagine letting him go. When the howls rose beneath the northern lights, snow lay over Anchorage like a quiet white shroud, but Noah sensed the change long before the town did. Coda no longer moved like a pup. His strides had lengthened, muscles thickening beneath the dark coat that seemed to swallow light. By the 3rd month, he had grown past Blaze's shoulder, an unsettling contrast to his young age. Blaze, disciplined and stoic, watched these changes with a soldier's caution, tail neither wagging nor tucked, but ready. Noah tried to convince himself nothing was wrong. That illusion lasted until the morning he stepped outside and saw Coda standing motionless in the backyard, breath mist curling from his jaws. At the wolf pup's feet lay the limp body of a snowshoe hare. The wound was clean, a precise bite to the neck, not torn, not messy, efficient. "Coda," Noah muttered, half awe, half dread. The pup, if he could still be called that, looked up at him, amber eyes bright with instinct and approval. Blaze approached from behind Noah, his posture rigid, one ear flicked forward. The German shepherd didn't growl, but the tension under his fur said enough. He recognized something primal in Coda, something old. Noah took the hare away, heart heavy with questions he didn't want to answer. He had trained with men whose instincts were sharper than knives. Coda's gaze mirrored theirs. Too sharp, too knowing. Still, Noah rationalized. Some dogs just hunt better than others. But the doubt began to gnaw at him. Days passed. Coda grew and grew. His legs stretched into long, elegant limbs. His shoulders broadened. His coat thickened to a double layer so dense snow dusted off without melting. Even the air around him seemed to shift when he walked, as if something ancient moved with him. One evening, just past midnight, Noah stepped outside to check the generator. Blaze followed, padding quietly across the crunchy snow. Coda wandered behind them, sniffing the cold air. The sky was clear, sharp, breathtaking. Ribbons of green and violet northern lights rippled overhead like silk set aflame. Coda lifted his head. A hush fell. Even the wind stilled. Then Coda opened his jaws and released a sound Noah had never heard before. It was not the stretched bark of a domestic dog. It was a howl. Deep, layered, resonant. It rolled across the snow-covered land like a forgotten language returning home. Blaze froze, hackles lifting in silent respect, or fear. Noah felt his breath catch in his throat. The sound stirred something instinctive inside him, something older than memory. When the howl faded, the mountains answered. Far away, faint but unmistakable. Another cry rose and twisted through the valleys, then another, and another. A chorus. Coda's breath steamed in the air. His amber eyes glowed faintly. He looked older, stronger, almost regal in the shimmering aurora light. Noah whispered, "No way. No way, you're just a dog." Fear and awe mingled in his chest. The next morning, with a pit in his stomach, Noah opened his laptop. The slow rural internet sputtered to life. He typed everything he had observed: growth rate, coat density, prey behavior, howl structure, eye color, into search bars. Every answer pointed the same direction. Not shepherd, not husky, not even a hybrid. Wolf, a northwestern gray wolf. A species known for size, intelligence, and loyalty to their chosen pack. A species illegal to keep without special permits. Noah shut the laptop, palms sweating. Damn it! He loaded Coda into the truck and drove back to Rhodes Animal Care. Dr. Emily Rhodes greeted them with her usual calm, though her eyes widened slightly when she saw the pup that had tripled in size. Emily's face, gentle features framed by her dark braid, shifted from curiosity to concern. She was not the type to panic, but she was absolutely the type to notice details others missed. "Well," she murmured, circling Coda slowly, "someone grew." She measured Coda's jaw, examined his teeth, lifted his paws. Each measurement furrowed her brow deeper. "Noah," she said carefully, "his teeth are too long for domestic breeds. His bone structure is changing too fast. I want to run a DNA test." The words hit Noah like a cold wave. Emily's tone stayed kind but firm. "Whatever he is, he trusts you, but you need to know what you're caring for." Noah agreed. 2 agonizing weeks passed. Coda only grew more impressive and more unsettling. He ran silently, moved with predatory precision, and seemed to understand Noah's commands before Noah finished speaking. Blaze learned to give him space, though he still nudged Coda away from hot surfaces or sharp tools, as if the German shepherd had accepted an odd mentorship role. At last, Emily called. When Noah arrived at the clinic, she looked different, tense, pale, her normally open posture rigid. She handed him a printed sheet. Canis lupus occidentalis northwestern gray wolf. 100% match. No mixed ancestry, no uncertainty. Noah stared at the page until the words blurred. "I've been raising a wolf in my cabin," he said numbly. Emily nodded, sympathy softening her expression. "A very young one. If his mother abandoned him during the storm, his chances of survival were almost zero. You became his pack," her voice gentled. "But wolves aren't legal pets, Noah, and as he grows, his instincts—" "I know," Noah whispered. "Believe me, I know." The moment that changed everything came at dawn, days later. A mist hung over the tree line. Noah stepped outside with his coffee. Coda was already there, standing tall and alert at the edge of the forest. Blaze watched from the porch, body taut. Shapes appeared between the trees, large, silent, moving with eerie grace. A wolf pack, 5 wolves, each powerful, each assessing. Their leader, a grizzled gray male with scars carved into his muzzle, approached first. Coda stepped forward without fear. Their noses touched. The forest fell utterly still. After a long, suspended moment, the gray alpha turned away, expecting Coda to follow, but Coda did not move. Instead, he trotted back to Noah, brushing against his leg with deliberate certainty. Blaze inhaled sharply, muscles loosening, as if released from tension he had held for weeks. Coda sat beside Noah and Blaze, chest lifted with quiet pride. The pack watched. Then, one by one, they melted back into the forest. Coda had made his choice. He had chosen his pack. The viral video and the leap between man and beast. The winter sun was already sinking when Noah heard the first scream. It came sharp and panicked through the pines, slicing across the brittle afternoon air. Blaze's ears shot up. Coda, now towering and broad-shouldered like a creature carved from shadow, lifted his head and inhaled sharply. Noah didn't hesitate. He grabbed his coat, whistled once, and sprinted toward the woods. The forest floor groaned underfoot as thin sheets of ice cracked like breaking glass. Ahead, 3 tourists, 2 men and 1 woman, floundered at the edge of a half-frozen creek. Their clothing marked them as city-goers, bright jackets, fashionable boots, and more fear than experience. The woman, slender with curled brown hair and a pale, terrified face, clung to a tree trunk while the taller man beside her flailed uselessly, his glasses askew. The third, a shorter, broad-shouldered man with a red beanie, was trying to pull his friends toward the bank, only to slip and nearly fall himself. "Get away from the ice," Noah shouted, but the tourists barely heard him over their own panic. Blaze sprinted ahead, barking sharp warnings. His posture was authoritative, unmistakable. He stayed back from the dangerous ice, herding the humans towards safer footing. Coda, meanwhile, reacted differently. The large black wolf dog bounded forward with a speed that stole Noah's breath. His paws barely touched the ground before he skidded to a halt between the tourists and the creek, planting himself wide and tall, fur bristling in protective instinct. The man in the red beanie fumbled for his phone. "Holy! Someone call 911? This dog is going nuts." "That's not a dog," the woman shrieked. Coda let out a single thunderous growl, not directed at the people, but at the cracking ice behind them. The ice groaned again, splitting along a jagged line. "Move!" Noah yelled, grabbing the woman's arm and pulling her to safer ground. They scrambled uphill, Blaze barking at their heels. Coda stepped backward slowly, forcing the remaining 2 toward the snow-covered bank. His body language was firm but controlled, the same way a seasoned guardian would guide its pack away from danger. But the man with the phone didn't see protection. He saw teeth. He saw size. He saw a wolf. The camera zoomed in on Coda's gleaming fangs, the low rumble vibrating through his chest as the ice behind him finally shattered. Water surged upward in a slushy burst. Had the tourists stayed another 3 seconds, they would have plunged through. Instead, the video caught only one thing: a massive black wolf standing between screaming humans and a violent landscape. His posture imposing, his teeth bared. The clip lasted 8 seconds. It took less than a day to go viral. 3 mornings later, Noah's quiet cabin erupted with the crunch of tires on frozen gravel. Blaze growled softly. Coda stood tall by the window, head high, sensing tension without understanding its shape. 5 vehicles pulled into Noah's property, 2 marked with the Alaska Department of Fish and Wildlife logo, 1 police cruiser, 1 veterinary transport van, and a dark SUV that spoke of officials who dealt in paperwork rather than field work. The lead officer stepped out first. Daniel Reyes was in his mid-40s, weathered but fit, with a neatly trimmed beard peppered with gray. His sharp hazel eyes hinted at years spent navigating conflict between people and the wild. He carried the weight of a man who had seen tragedy too often, a ranger who once lost a colleague to a poacher's bullet, a story that had hardened his sense of duty. He approached with a calm, deliberate stride. "Noah Carter," he called out, holding up a folder. "We need to talk about the animal in your care." Noah stepped onto the porch. Blaze moved to his left. Coda stood at his right, a silent, imposing silhouette. "He's not an animal," Noah said evenly. "He's Coda. I raised him from 2 weeks old." Behind Reyes approached Dr. Emily Rhodes, bundled in her gray coat. Her braid was damp with frost, her expression tense but sympathetic. "Noah," she said softly. They saw the footage. The next person to emerge was Jack Turner, Noah's neighbor. Jack was a broad, ruddy-faced man in his 50s, known for fixing fences and talking loudly at town potlucks. Today, though, his face was grim. He had insisted on coming after hearing officers were mobilizing. Jack had lived through a wilderness accident years ago that left him with a limp, an event that made him fiercely loyal to anyone who had saved his life. Noah was one of those people. I'm here to speak for the man, Jack said, planting himself beside Noah. Reyes sighed. We have procedures, folks. You can't keep a wild wolf without permits, especially one that size. Before Noah could answer, a sound cut through the icy air, a long, guttural roar, not from Coda, from the woods. Everyone turned as a massive brown bear lurched from between the trees. Its fur was ragged, patches missing, foam flecked its jaws. A starving, sick animal, the most dangerous kind. Emily gasped. Jack stumbled back. Don't move, Noah warned. The bear locked eyes on the cluster of humans. Blaze barked once, stepping forward, but Coda beat him there. The black wolf launched himself across the snow, landing with a force that sent powder exploding into the air. He stood between the group and the charging bear, body curved protectively, fur standing like a dark crown. Then he growled. The sound was nothing like the warning from the creek. This was older, deeper, a sound built from instinct and domination. A primal declaration. The bear faltered. It hesitated, muscles twitching. Coda stepped forward, unyielding. The contrast was staggering. The bear enormous, towering. Coda smaller but fearless, his eyes hard as amber glass. 3 seconds passed, then 5. Then the bear turned. It retreated into the forest, crashing through the underbrush, defeated not by violence but by presence. Silence swallowed the clearing. Emily stared, breath misting. He saved us! Jack wiped sweat from his brow. That wolf's worth 10 men. Even Reyes could not hide his shock. His voice trembled slightly. No ordinary wolf behaves like that. Noah placed a hand on Coda's back. He's not ordinary. An hour later, a new vehicle arrived. From the SUV stepped Judge Helen Ward, a retired federal judge known across the region for her calm reasoning and silver hair kept in a sharp, elegant bob. Tall, slender, and impeccably composed, she carried herself like someone who had spent a lifetime weighing lives and laws in equal measure. Her slate-blue eyes swept the scene, taking in Coda first, Noah second, then the trembling officers. I've reviewed Mr. Carter's file, she said, her voice warm but authoritative. Decorated Navy SEAL, severe PTSD, documented improvement since the arrival of this companion. She studied Coda with a thoughtful gaze, not fear, but curiosity. This is not a standard case, she continued. This is a relationship, and the law must account for unique circumstances. Reyes opened his mouth to object, but Helen raised a hand. I propose a special therapeutic wildlife permit, she said. Coda remains with Noah under strict conditions, reinforced fencing, regular inspections, no public exposure, full liability coverage, and veterinary oversight by Dr. Rhodes. Her eyes softened. Otherwise, removing him would do more harm than good. To both of them. Noah felt his throat tighten. Blaze pressed against his leg. Coda leaned closer, sensing the shift in emotion. Reyes finally nodded. If we're doing this, it must be airtight, but I agree, after what I saw, that wolf belongs here. Noah exhaled. Coda stayed. The chosen pack and the second winter snow returned to Anchorage heavier in the second year, layering the valley in white silence. The world around Noah's cabin seemed preserved in frost, as if time itself had slowed for the sake of the 3 who lived there. The fenced enclosure, 8 feet tall with reinforced steel beams, glimmered with a thin curtain of ice, the result of days spent under sub-zero winds. Noah had built it himself, hands still strong despite lingering aches in his left knee. It was more than a structure. It was a promise, a boundary that kept Coda safe, not contained. Coda, now fully grown, moved like a shadow carved from the northern wilderness. His massive frame, sleek black coat, and amber eyes commanded attention, yet his gait remained silent, almost reverent. Every dawn, before the sun brushed the mountain peaks, he patrolled the perimeter. His breath curled in the cold air, each exhale confirming his claim to the land Noah had given him. He stopped at each fence post, sniffed lightly, then pressed his forehead against the wood as if greeting old sentinels. Blaze watched him from the porch, dignified and disciplined even in age. At 6, the German shepherd showed early signs of stiff joints on cold mornings, but he carried himself with the pride of a seasoned guardian. His deep tan and black coat had lightened only slightly, and his eyes, steady amber flecked with gold, remained sharp. Blaze was the anchor of the household, the silent mediator when Coda grew restless. the steadying force behind Noah when his breaths came too fast and memories clawed up from the dark. Noah felt himself changing too. PTSD still whispered at the edges of his nights, but the episodes had softened. The nightmares no longer dictated his mornings. Instead, his days followed a new rhythm, feeding schedules for the animals, short hikes within fenced boundaries, time spent maintaining the enclosure, evenings spent rubbing Blaze's shoulders and brushing loose fur from Coda's winter coat. It was routine, but it was also healing, and Noah clung to it. Emily Rhodes visited every few weeks, her presence a quiet reassurance. She often arrived bundled in a long navy parka, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. Today she carried a leather-bound notebook, tucked beneath one arm, her braid dusted with fresh snow. "Coda looks stronger this month," she remarked, scribbling notes as Coda approached the fence line. She watched him with the attentive gaze of a biologist, though affection softened the edges of her scientific focus. "He's put on more muscle," Noah replied. "More controlled now, calmer." Emily nodded. "Wolves mature differently than dogs. He's finding balance." Her eyes drifted toward Blaze, who sat nearby, posture proud. "And he still listens to Blaze," she added with a smile. "Blaze raised him," Noah said, shrugging one shoulder. "Or at least kept him in check when he needed it." Emily closed her notebook. "Whatever you're doing, it's working. He's the healthiest captive-born wolf I've ever seen." Noah didn't correct her. Coda had not been captive-born, but he had been reborn here, in this strange little family. Before leaving, Emily pressed a gloved hand to Noah's shoulder. "You don't give yourself enough credit. Not many people could manage this." Noah's throat tightened. Compliments still felt like pressure, something he didn't quite know how to accept. But Emily's sincerity grounded him. Jack Turner visited later that afternoon, ambling toward the fence with 2 steaming foil-wrapped parcels in his gloved hands. "Brought cinnamon rolls," he announced proudly. Jack was built like a winter oak, thick trunk, weather-beaten bark, surprisingly gentle roots. His hair, a messy combination of silver and brown, stuck out from beneath a wool cap. Deep laugh lines framed his eyes, although his gait carried the faint limp of a man who once fell through a hillside and broke a leg during a hunting trip many years back. He held up the pastries. "Figured your boys burn enough calories to justify 'em?" Blaze barked once in approval. Coda stepped forward too, curious, though Jack wisely placed the rolls on a stump rather than offering them by hand. "No offense, big guy," Jack murmured, "but I like my fingers where they are." Noah chuckled. "Good call." Jack leaned against the fence, watching Coda pace gracefully through drifting snow. "You've got the finest security team in Alaska," he teased. "Better than any alarm system." "Don't tell the state," Noah muttered, though a smile tugged at his mouth. Jack's expression softened. "You're doing good, Noah. Better than last year." It wasn't a question, it was truth, and Noah didn't deny it. At times, Coda still communicated with the wild pack beyond the trees. Their faint silhouettes would appear at twilight, curious, cautious, respectful. The wolves never crossed into the fenced land, and Coda never breached his boundary. Yet through the bars, they exchanged soft chuffs, shared breaths, sometimes lifted their heads in unison to howl before melting back into the shadows. It wasn't longing, it was acknowledgement, a reminder that Coda had 2 worlds, but chose one. The night the aurora returned felt like a gift. The sky rippled in green ribbons that danced across the quiet valley. Noah sat on the porch, wrapped in his thick navy coat. Blaze nestled at his feet, warm and steady. Coda sat on the lower step, chest tall, ears perked, breath shining in the cold. From far away, a wild howl rose, distant, melodic, beckoning. Coda answered. His howl surged upward, rich and powerful, threading through the night sky. It vibrated in Noah's ribs, in Blaze's bones, in the wooden beams of the cabin itself. Noah felt something loosen inside him, a knot he had carried for too long. He lifted his head toward the aurora and let out a rough, awkward howl of his own. Off-key, embarrassing, entirely real. Blaze snorted in amusement. Coda leaned against Noah's knee, rumbling softly, as if approving. In that moment, under the northern lights, the 3 of them weren't man, dog, and wolf. They were a pack. They were chosen. And for the first time in years, Noah felt not like a broken soldier, but like someone who belonged. In the quiet of that Alaskan winter, as one broken soldier, one loyal dog, and one misunderstood wolf found each other, something greater than coincidence unfolded. Some call it luck, Others call it fate, but many believe it is the quiet work of God, guiding lost souls toward the healing they never knew they needed. Because sometimes the miracles we pray for do not arrive in thunder or bright light. Sometimes they come in the form of a trembling pup in the snow, a faithful companion at your side, a moment when your heart opens again after years of staying closed. And maybe that is the message for all of us. No matter how heavy the day feels, no matter how far we think we've fallen, God still places small mercies in our path. Creatures, people, moments that remind us we are not forgotten. Grace does not always remove the storm, but it always sends someone to walk through it with us. If this story touched your heart today, please share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories of hope, healing, and second chances. May God bless you, protect your home, and guide your steps through every season of your life. And may you always recognize the miracles, large and small, that He sends your way.